Captain's Log, Stardate 201609.30. Welcome back, everybody. It is time for another Captain Foley Captain's Log. And my last Captain's Log was about a lot of hate for the Discovery design, and postponement as well. Had over 194 comments, most of those directly related to Discovery. I'm not going to read them all in this one. I'm going to kind of go through and selectively pick some of the ones that I want to show you guys, because that would just be too long. The last one's over an hour long. And I did kind of specifically ask we try to keep the comments away from Discovery last time, but it makes sense. I mean, it's the thing to talk about right now. So as you can tell by the thumbnail of this one, the Discovery design could have been a lot worse. There were other conceptual designs that they could have gone with, which, to be honest, are interesting, but I think they picked the lesser of at least these two evils, the one on the thumbnail here and the one they went with. That being said, I do personally like the Discovery design as we saw it initially. There have been changes to it as we've discussed. I wish I could show you guys the changes or tell you about the changes, but I just don't have the authorization to do that at this time. And like I said, we have been kept abreast of what's going on with the Discovery ship, and there has been some redesigns going on with that. So keep that in mind, guys, that there's always, you know, things going on behind the scenes that you guys don't know about, and it could have been worse, is all I'm saying. I understand that people don't like the design. I got a lot of flack in the last one for, you know, in one breath I say I praise the Discovery design, and you know, I go on to say that I didn't like Enterprise or the JJ Prize, Enterprise the series or JJ Prize, which I understand. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, and I'm not being the cheerleading squad for the Discovery, as a lot of people have suggested that I am. I just like it. I think it's a cool design. There's a lot of potential there, and the way it's kind of evolved, I think a lot of you guys that hated it initially will like it. And it's like the Enterprise D when TNG came out. Whenever something new Star Trek comes out, there's always the haters out there that are criticizing and critiquing it, and that's par for the course with Star Trek. So there is that. So I'm not the cheerleading squad for it. I just like the design. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, and you can express that. You can say that I don't like the design for these reasons, but when you start to get kind of very negative and start to, you know, it's ugly, I'm not watching the series because of it, that seems kind of odd to me. First of all, you're a Star Trek fan. You will watch the series eventually at some point, I'm pretty sure. Probably 90% of the people that say they'll never watch the series because they don't like the Discovery design will eventually go on to watch it. How can you not? I mean, I'm not a big fan of the NX-01, or Enterprise as a series, but I've watched it now 3 times, and I'm watching it again, and we're going through it again. I'm going to pay more attention to the 3rd season this time, though, because, this, like I said in past Captain's Logs, this Indy story arc kind of threw me out of it. But I'm going to try to focus a little bit more on this one, and, you know, Season 4 was great. There's a lot of great episodes in all the seasons. So it's not that I hate Enterprise necessarily. It's just not my favorite series. But it's Star Trek, so I'll watch it. I say the same thing for JJ. I always have. If you go back and watch my other videos, I'm like, it's Star Trek. You need to watch it. You don't need to watch it. I'm not telling you to watch it. I'm just saying it's Star Trek. I personally watch it. I own all the JJ movies. Not a huge fan of them, but I'll throw them in occasionally. And they do have their excellent points, their excellent scenes, their excellent character development moments, things like that. So it's all perspective based. Okay, so I just want to put that out there for you guys, that I'm not the cheerleading squad for Discovery. That's not the case at all. I have a lot of high hopes for it. I am bummed about the postponement, but you know, they need to do what they got to do to make it good, in their opinion at least. You might not think it's good even after it does come out, and you're entitled to that opinion. So I just wanted to diffuse a lot of the hatred right at the beginning of this video. This video is going to be more, I've got a few things to show you guys that I picked up recently that is very cool. I also want to go through some of the comments and address some of them. I'm not going to address all of them, like I said, as that would just take too long. So yeah, anyway, I hope that you guys at least appreciate the fact that the design could have been much worse, and that's what I'm trying to get at here. The design that I have in the thumbnail here is very much a concept design, just like the Macquarie Enterprise was, and it's very Star Destroyer-ish. It's got a Star Destroyer with a Enterprise secondary hull and nacelles and whatnot attached to it. So if that would have been the actual one that came out with, I wouldn't have liked it personally, because it doesn't fit my Star Trek aesthetic, which is the saucer and things like that. So, you know, we're fickle fans in a way, because we like what we like, and I want to get this point across to you guys. I do not like the Ralph McQuarrie Enterprise concept as it sits as a drawing, and we discussed that in our mission briefing on the design. But there's been redesigns of it over the years that fans have done, 3D designs, which look stellar. I mean, they look great. Redesigns are great. And I think the way that this was redesigned for that initial broadcast to us as fans, I liked it personally. I thought the 3 Bizarre collectors on the nacelles were kind of a cool idea, especially when we found out the era it was set in. I think that was a neat kind of progression towards even TNG nacelles on the D, where there are actually 2 Bizarre collectors in each nacelle end. You can see them both lit up, and I don't know if they intended to have those as both Bizarre collectors. In cutaways you do see that, but I think it was initially just a lighting thing. There were 2 lights in there, and that's how it just came out. And so they made that for the technical aspect of it to be just that, to be 2 Bizarre collectors in each nacelle. So I think that was a kind of a neat idea as for a pre-TOS ship, to have 3 nacelles or 3 Bizarre collectors on each nacelle, to kind of show that it's an older design that maybe required more. Maybe it was a longer term science vessel or a mission profile where it's going to be out longer. It needs to generate more of its own power, so it has to collect more hydrogen and whatnot through those Bizarre collectors. That's why it has extras. Or it's just an older design. I don't know. I just thought it was a neat idea. I will say 100% that the nacelles have been changed. They're not at all like we saw them, which is kind of a shame. I kind of like the thicker, broader nacelles. But, you know, everything gets redesigned for a reason, and I think everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. I've been told that my whole life, you know. It is what it is, and we got to kind of accept it. You know, there's not much we can do. It's going to come about as it is. If you hate it, fine. You know, a lot of people I know of, even the design of the Discovery has grown on them since they first saw it. A few of, well, at least one of our admin team for the Trekyards page absolutely hated the design, but even now he's admitted he's warmed up to it, kind of, now that he's seen some different takes on it and things like that. So it is something that can evolve with you as a Trek fan, and I think that's something that we should definitely keep in mind. And same, like I said, with the Enterprise D, it's the same thing with that a lot of fans initially weren't impressed that TNG was coming out. It was the whole argument was, well, it's not Kirk and it's not Spock, they're going to destroy our Star Trek, and they didn't. A lot of people still don't like TNG, or they don't like the Enterprise D design still, and that's perfectly acceptable. I mean, that's fine. I don't remember my initial views on the Enterprise D. I thought it was kind of neat looking, but I don't know if I hated it or loved it. I was kind of young at the time, so but I think it's all right design. It definitely has its views. I mean, some views, as with all Enterprises, even the JJ Prize, some views are stunning. They look great. I've always said this, the JJ Prize from the side looks amazing. I love it. It's when you start to change the angle a little bit that you get some of those awkward, gawky kind of poses where things don't look proportionally correct or whatnot. That's when it kind of starts to bother me a little bit. And the Enterprise D is the same way. It's got some ugly, ugly angles, but some are totally beautiful. And I think the same thing's can be said for this Discovery design. It's going to be the same kind of thing happening with that. So yeah, that's I think going to be the case this time around. That yeah, it's going to be new and it's going to be inventive, and you might not like it, but some of you eventually will. Some of you might never like it, and that's fine. I totally understand that. And you might not even watch the series because of it, which I think personally, I don't want to get too preachy, as I guess I've been kind of labeled in the last video, but I don't want to. I personally think that the majority of you guys will watch it, even if you hate the show. At least watch the first one because it's the free one. I think that's worth addressing. Also, it was pointed out to me that Netflix in Canada will not be playing it. It'll be available on Space, which doesn't make sense to me because it's not a pay-per-view service. It's a free channel. Or on Crave TV, which is a paid-for service, much like Netflix. So that's fine with me. Crave TV is the Bell Canada version of Netflix, basically up here. It's got some cool stuff on it. It's weird though because they used to have they have all the Star Trek series on Crave, but Netflix originally only had TNG. They recently got all of the series, so I assumed that because they had all the series of Star Trek, that there was a deal with CBS and that they would be playing the new show as part of that. So thank you to everyone that's corrected me and said that it's on Crave TV and Space. I'm interested to see if it will be on Space actually, but I'm pretty sure it'll be on Crave TV, so I'll be able to still watch it up here, which is great. So that's one of the things that kind of got pointed out to me in the last one. I was under the impression that it was going to be available on Netflix up here, but apparently that's not the case. Other countries maybe, but not Canada. So I apologize to everyone who I got that wrong for. So anyway, what else? There's a few things I wanted to show you guys to try to lighten the mood of this one. I don't want it to be so serious and so blah blah blah. And one person on the last one that I really want to kind of address, they said it was a great video until I started talking about my dog. Please don't talk about your goddamn dog. Well, sorry, it's my personal captain's logs. These are the way they've always been. It's about what goes on behind the scenes here at Trekyards with Captain Foley, with Commander Cockings, with the whole show and everything. And that's part of my personal life, which I include in my captain's log so that you guys kind of get a feel for what goes on behind the scenes here. And I will continue to do whatever I feel like personally wise in regards to that kind of thing. Generally, like I said, they're going to be at the end of the captain's log after we've kind of wrapped up all the questions and comments and the main topic of discussion, which today really wasn't too focused, but it was kind of on the design could have been worse. So let's just look on the bright side of things. And I know a lot of you are going to be like, well, it's really bad and I don't like it. And that's fine. You're perfectly entitled to that opinion. So anyway, I also use this as a showcase for kind of showing off some new products and things like that. And I kind of wanted to do that this time around as well. Like I said, I got a few new things and I think that I would like to show some of those to you right now. My friend Dan Hall, I've sent him the $20 coin from the Franklin Mint, Star Trek 50th, as well as the quarter as well. But I've got a few more things for him because there we go. There's stuff from the Canada Post as well. He's a big Scotty fan. He actually knew James Doohan. He was friends with him, and he was quite upset about his death. Obviously, they had supper a few times together. So I got him this. It's a prepaid envelope. We got the Scotty stamp, the Scotty thing. There's a bunch of really cool enterprises and communicators and stuff on there. And on the back, it's got a history of Scotty. Now, this is basically just a prepaid envelope you can get from Canada Post. There's Kirk and Spock ones as well as a few other ones, a Klingon one, which I have to go back and get because I didn't have them at the time. But I got that for him, which I think he's going to absolutely love. They also have other ones as well. There's this one here, which is there's Apollo's hand holding the Enterprise. And it's got the little Enterprise stamp in the corner. Very cool. And it talks at the back just about the Enterprise and being designed by Matt Jeffries and under the command of Captain Kirk. And you got the Enterprise schematic as the backdrop for that. So that's pretty fantastic as well. I absolutely love the art on that. There's also this one, which is fantastic. The art of that one is amazing. The Katinga under attack, getting damaged, phaser hits. And on the back, you see the Enterprise with a big damage. So it's been quite a battle going on there. And here it just talks about meeting the Klingons in battle and about the Klingon battlecruiser, again designed by Matt Jeffries. And it's got the little Klingon battlecruiser stamp there as well. So there's these. If you're interested, it's Canada Post. Look up Canada Post on Google. I'm sure you'll be able to find it. They also have these, the little commemorative stamps with the little backing And there's so many things you can buy. You can buy big lenticular prints that are just big versions of the lenticular postcards they have, like $140 for those, and a bunch of other things, stamp sheets that are framed. Beautiful stuff. I plan on getting quite a few of the things if I can. I'm also trying to get some of the standees and promotional art for the things. So another thing that happened, Dennis Young, he wrote a book about the Sentinel, which was designed by Bill Krause. He loved the design, contacted Bill, said, I got a story idea, I'd like to write a little story. Bill agreed, and so we got Sentinel, Into the Breach, a Starfleet saga. Now this, I contacted Dennis Young, he sent me out this copy. It was $15 shipping from the States for this, which might seem like a lot, but Bill Krause is a friend of mine. I know him from Wonderfest. We've done the Trekyards Originals episode on the Shangri-La design. So I needed to get this in case we do a Sentinel episode. We can include some of the facts and stuff about the ship from in this book as well. It's a great read so far. I'm only on page 10. I don't know if you can still get them. I know Dennis Young had a very limited amount printed, but if you look up Dennis Young on Facebook and contact him, you might be able to snag a copy. It's pretty interesting read so far, and I'm looking forward to finishing that. So I just wanted to share that one with you guys. Okay. Also from the Canada Post, we got this little Canada Post stamp dispenser. You buy a roll of stamps, like $42 or whatever, and you can buy the stamps that are the Enterprise and the Klingon bird or the Klingon D7, and you just put them in there, and you got this little stamp dispenser. So it's got Star Trek 50th on the back, got a Klingon D7 there, Connie, or you can use it as like a bank, piggy bank kind of thing as well. So there's that. Also, the little light up shuttlecraft from the Running Press. I've got the Communicator, the Enterprise, and the Phaser from them as well. They come with a nice little book inside that talks about, you know, the shuttle and different things like that. So they each come with their own little book, and this is a light up shuttle, like I said. There it is on the back of the box, side. This was $16.95 Canadian. It's $12.95 in the US and £7.99 in the UK. But here it is here behind me. Very accurate little ship. And you got a little switch on the bottom. You turn it on, you got the glowing engines on the back. Now the only problem I had with this, one of the nacelle caps was on and it wasn't centered. It was hanging down quite a bit. So there was a lip there, and it really kind of bugged me. But since I'm a model maker, I popped it off, which wasn't easy, I might add. The glue is very strong on this, so popped it off and fixed the placement of it. So it's pretty cool. It's actually about the same size as the Eagle Moss version, I believe. The Trek Collector Chris Judge did a review of it and compared it with that. So very accurate and cool looking little model. And of course, I've got the Enterprise here. The Phaser and the Communicator in the other room, but this is the little Enterprise from the Running Press as well that you can get that lights up. And the only complaint I have about the Enterprise is the nacelle struts are angled back a little bit. But other than that, like, you can't really tell from most angles. From directly side on, you can see that it's a little inaccuracy, but not a huge deal. So that's going to be back there for this captain's log. So that's that. Go pick one up if you're interested. They're very cool, and if you can snag all the other ones too, you might as well. I'm hoping they come out with the tricorder next. But like I said, I've got the little Communicator, I've got the Enterprise, the Phaser, and the Galileo now. So. Also, when we were in Denver, we ran into a gentleman, can't remember his name right offhand, but he, oh, here it is, John Garrison, from fansets.com. There's his business card. Go to fansets.com. They've got pins from Star Trek, DC Comics, Harry Potter, and more coming soon. they do fan sets for pins. So he sent us here at Trekyards, he sent both myself and Samuel a full set of their ship pins thus far. Samuel and myself, once Samuel receives his, we're going to be doing a podcast talking about them and kind of reviewing them and promoting them a little bit for them. But they were nice enough to send us complete sets. So we got the little Reliant pin here, which isn't that little, it's actually pretty big, but very cool. We got the NX-01. Save my favorite for last, of course. We got the Borg Cube, Borg Collective. You got the Calypso, I believe is the captain's yacht class name. For the Enterprise E, it's the Calypso. For the Enterprise D, it was the Cousteau. We got the Defiant pin. We also got the Klingon D7 and the TOS Connie. So those are really cool. There's two more that they did initially have designed up, but there was the Refit and the Excelsior or the Enterprise B, I can't remember which, but there were some flaws in the actual ship details, so they've put those on hold. Samuel and myself, Samuel was sending them accurate renders of the parts, the detailed part they need, so that they will be able to help develop those pins as well in the future. Perhaps I'll get those as well once those are finished. So fansets.com, check them out. Like they got a bunch of interesting sci-fi and geek pin collections. While I was in Denver, he gave me a few demo ones as well of characters. I got the Gorn, 7 of 9. I can't remember where I put them. I think I showed them off after my captain's log after we got back from Denver. So anyway, guys, I think that's it for the stuff I wanted to show you guys. Also, one more thing I want to mention real quick before we get into the comments and questions is that this weekend was London Comic-Con here in London, Ontario. Sammy and myself did a panel on the evolution of the Enterprise design in universe as well as real life. That Samuel is editing together right now for an episode for you guys. It's much like the 50 years of Enterprise that we did at Ticonderoga, and like at Ticonderoga, Trekyards, as it were, we had internet connection problems at the beginning, so I missed about 15 minutes of our panel, but it was still the same thing as Trekyards, where the internet died halfway through. We had some technical issues. You guys have seen that if you've seen the episode. This one starts off with technical issues, but doesn't have any more crop up during the course of the discussion. So it was actually turned out very well, and hopefully you guys will enjoy that when it comes out. Just talking about the evolution of design from the NX-01 all the way up to Enterprise E, and then the JJ prize as well. We included in that as a bonus. We compared the JJ prize to the Constitution class. So be on the lookout for that, guys. It'll be absolutely great, and I hope you guys enjoy it very much. All right, so let's get on to the questions and comments now. Like I said, I'm going to go through and pick a few of the better ones and just kind of be selective. If you want to see all of the discussions about Discovery in the comments section of my last Captain's Log, please check that out. There's some great theories, discussions, and whatnot, and I would really encourage you guys to look through them. I can't afford the time to read them all right now. I don't want to make this too long for you guys, so please go to the last Captain's Log and check that out. So John Hawkins says, Stuart, very cool looking house, good taste. Thank you very much. Yeah, the upstairs is kind of devoid of all things Star Trek or sci-fi. I don't believe in those being representative in the living room or the main living area of the house. That's very much confined to, the man cave and the Trekyards central command here. So I've got more of the medieval, theme up there, swords, weaponry. I've got some Sherlock Holmes things, things like that. Old history, antiques, maps. I very much into my history and things like that. So that's kind of what's upstairs. So Robert Hayes says, I'll watch it, Discovery, but the timeline it's set in doesn't really interest me. I expect there to be more to it. So yeah, there might be. Like I said, who knows what's going to happen. This could really tie up some loose ends even for Enterprise and things. So hopefully that's the case. So Robert Van Tunen says, speaking of tabletop gaming, what are the best Star Trek RPGs other than FASA? Well, there's the Star Trek role-playing game, which I have the main book for. That is not FASA related. I've never played it though, so I don't know. It's kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons thing. But as for Starship Battles, definitely Starfleet. As for did I say Starship Battles? I think so. As for Starship Battle kind of tabletop gaming, Starfleet Battles is the way to go. I think it's absolutely great. That's the one I grew up with. Like I said, I never played FASA. I had a lot of the books and the miniatures and things like that, but I never actually played the game or done the combat simulation with it. I've always been a Starfleet Battles guy, so that's the one I would definitely have to recommend for that. Next is from King Hamster Frisbee 6. Hey Captain Foley, I agree with you 1701% on Discovery. Actually, I agree with you on just about anything Star Trek, apart from one thing, ships with one nacelle. P.S. I can't grow a proper beard either, and knowing that I'm not the only one really helps out my self-esteem, which is pretty low. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I'm glad that I help, but I can't do it either. But your self-esteem shouldn't be low. Mine is as well, so I shouldn't really say that. But just try to look on the positive side, and you know, you're a good person. You're here, put here for a reason. I appreciate your comments and whatnot, so please keep that in mind. So Kolahi N7 says, they all bitch about the new show, but all of them will be there one day on day one to watch it. And I totally disagree when you say JJ didn't revive the show. JJ is the reason I'm a Star Trek fan now. Well, that's good. I love hearing that kind of stuff. I don't think it revives Star Trek at all. I think it just refreshed it a bit, and maybe did bring in some new people, which is awesome. As long as, you know, you're watching the older stuff as well and kind of getting an appreciation for all things Star Trek, I think that's great. Even if you just like the JJ stuff, I mean, you're still a dedicated Star Trek fan, so that's awesome. So I'm sorry that I was wrong about that. It's just my opinion that I don't think it necessarily restored the franchise, that Star Trek was a dead franchise. It wasn't, as far as I was concerned, with the merchandising and whatnot. There was still a lot of it's perfect timing, the JJ schematics come up. So but yeah, that's great that JJ brought you in. I think that's very cool. I love hearing that kind of stuff, like I said, and I hope that you watch other Star Trek and get a real appreciation for some of the stuff that came before, because there's some really fantastic stuff. So that's really all I have to say about that. Next one is from Lance Elliott. He says, oh wow, thanks for answering my question. I was curious, have you many of the Star Trek novels? I do have a lot of Star Trek novels, most of which I haven't had time to read, unfortunately, but I have a large collection, which I'll show you guys in a future Captain's Log. I know they're not really considered canon, but I found reading the ones about Star Trek Enterprise, they provide good explanations I think you'd find that Enterprise fit around without messing with your timeline. Yeah, I know some of these. For example, the Daedalus class does exist in the era, and they explain it as an older design than the NX, and even the Enterprise Intrepid class ships. That I knew, that side by side there were Daedaluses and NX class ships, and that the Daedalus class is more like a Warp 3 ship, so like the NX was the next evolution, you know, the new Warp 5 engine. They also address the issue of Enterprise displays looking more advanced than the TOS ones. The Romulans develop a weapon in the Romulan War for digital hacking of hijacking of vessels. To counter it, Starfleet had to rebuild control interfaces to be analog. Hopefully these explanations are more palatable. Yes, I actually love that. I had heard that before as well. That's why there's a more simplistic approach to the TOS kind of computer interfaces, and why nothing's really labeled. As I said before, a lot of times the codes would change. You'd have to reconfigure the panel so that if an enemy did take control of your ship, or in fact hijack your ship or board your vessel, they wouldn't know what the controls necessarily did. It would take them a while to figure that out. So that is a perfectly feasible explanation, and I absolutely love that. Thank you very much for sharing that, as I'm sure that'll help out a lot of the viewers here as well. Carter Baker says, I don't diss the design of Discovery. Just because it was rejected doesn't mean that it's a bad design. It really was Gene just deciding to test the waters of other designs. And that's exactly right. When you're moving to a new format, such as a Phase 2 Star Trek or a big screen thing, you want more concept designs. You don't want to necessarily just do a refit of the ship you already have. So yeah, it was open-mindedness on his part to accept other designs. The fact that it was rejected, yes, does mean that it was not necessarily what they were looking for, but it doesn't mean it's a bad starship design. It just means it's a bad design for Enterprise, for the ship that we all know and love. It definitely fits into the world of Federation design aesthetics as far as I'm concerned, so I totally agree with that. 1701%. Zero Bang. TNG got a lot of hate from the TOS fans when it was announced, as I discussed. DS9 was hated by TNG fans initially, and a lot of people still haven't watched Deep Space Nine because of that. Voyager was, well, Voyager. Enterprise, again, got a lot of hate from the old fans. I must admit I'm included in that. Not hate, just, ugh, really? They're doing that? Ugh. So, the JJ movies are basically made by Satan himself, if you listen to some fans. I can name one that keeps commenting on anything we release JJ, but I'm not going to. Getting hate means people still care. If people were like, meh, whatever, then Star Trek would be in real trouble. And that's absolutely true. The fan film guidelines and the entire Axanar situation has just made me angry, and overall it was a pretty crappy 50th anniversary. I reserve my judgment on Star Trek Discovery until I've actually seen a few episodes of it. Level-headed thinking, and I totally agree with your anger issues about what CBS did and the timing that they did it, but I think they have their own reasons for that, and we're going to know that down the road as well. So we kind of do have to wait and watch a few episodes of Discovery and kind of get a feel for what happens after the Axanar situation is resolved, and hear from CBS about why they did what they did. Because I've heard a few different versions of it from both sides, and it's very interesting, and I can't wait till a lot of this stuff kind of comes out in the open. There'll be a lot more to talk about, and a lot more will be understood, I think. You might still hate CBS for what they did, but they do have their reasons, so. Ross Ballmer says, who are these jerks complaining about how the show is going to be PC? Have they ever watched Star Trek before? Remember the show where women were equal to men and the whole crew was international and they had the first interracial kiss on TV? You know, the one that was personally endorsed by Martin Luther King for its positive portrayal of African Americans? And why do they describe every character who isn't white and male as token? How do they figure that? Do they somehow think that they would be more realistic if everyone was white, male, and straight? There's a black person going past my window right now. Are they token too? Where do they live? Nazi Germany? Maybe I suggest that they don't like the positive portrayals of minority groups. Maybe I suggest that if you don't like the positive portrayal of minority groups, that you're probably watching the wrong show. I couldn't have said that better myself. I totally agree with that. So take that for what it is. John Reese says, why are you being so harsh to the fans that don't feel good about the new show? The reason we are so vocal is because we love Trek, and we want this new show to be a new renaissance of what we love and are passionate about. Fair enough. I didn't mean to come across as harsh to the haters. It's just there was so much negativity, and being in my position as Captain Foley and dealing with all the comments on the Trekyards Facebook page, all of the videos and my captain's logs, I just see so much of the negativity that it just gets to me. Also including my depression and anxiety issues. The negativity of it all really does irritate me, and sometimes I let that show a little too much, more than I should. I understand that people don't like it. I get that, and I understand why they don't like it. I don't want to focus on the negativity all the time. There's got to be good in there as well, and that's what I was trying to get across. And I apologize if I was in one of those moods where I just kind of went off on the haters. I apologize 100% for that. I really feel like you guys sometimes are just a little too harsh. You don't like it, so you're not going to watch it. Okay, that's good. You're going to miss out on some good Trek then, I think. So I'm just trying to get that point across, that just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's not going to be good, and that you're not going to benefit something from it by watching it. So sorry to all you guys out there that don't like Discovery. I'm not trying to pick on you. It's not the case. Just please understand that when you see as much negativity about it as someone like myself and the commander and my admin team do on a daily basis, that it just becomes a little overwhelming, and we just kind of want to get our point across that it's not all about the negativity. So I'm glad you guys have a love for Star Trek and you're passionate about it, and you want to see something new that you're going to love and a new renaissance for the show, and that's fantastic, and I totally agree with you. So please accept my apologies. one of the regulars here, Enterprise H, says, "You are given the power to choose one FASTA Klingon design to be included in the new show with the caveat that you will need to explain why it was not seen in Deep Space Nine. The rest will be banished into oblivion. Which design do you choose?" Ooh, the Gull class was really cool, as well as the D-10. I'd probably go with the D-10, the bigger kind of marine transport ship. I think that'd be cool. And why wasn't it in Deep Space Nine? It was used for planetary assaults because it's basically a transport. It's not really a fighting vessel as far as space battles goes, perhaps. I hope that kind of works for you. Yeah. He also says, as you know, Voyager brought back technology which reduced the energy requirements of replication to 1/3 of before in the Void. How do you see this affecting the Federation? Well, it would give more power available to other systems such as holographic technology, so you could have holographic crew members like the Doctor and make that a thing. You can have sentient holograms, maybe. I don't know. Just power consumption, power conservation as a whole is a good thing in almost every situation, so it's just a good thing. And by the way, the person who fleshed out the Kinzinsi was called Jimmy Diggs. He's pretty vocal about getting them into Star Trek. You should try interviewing with him. I think you'll like their ship designs. I do love the Kinzinsi ship designs from Starfleet battles, as you know. So yeah, Jimmy Diggs. I might look into getting him on the show. That's a great idea. Thank you for the suggestion. This one made me laugh, so... Richard H. My major concern is the story of the established universe. I hope they can keep it familiar and feel like Star Trek. If they can do that, people won't care about the look of the vessel Discovery so much. It's just right now we don't have an emotional connection to the ship or its crew or the storylines. Patience is key here. Star Trek is like a big buffet. It has something for everyone to enjoy, including self-sealing stem bolts. Absolutely. It's true. You can, even if you don't like the new stuff, you don't have to watch it. You got all the old stuff to go back and watch, and all the fan-created stuff, and all the books. I mean, there's so much out there for something for everybody that likes anything Star Trek related. So definitely something to think about, guys. And yeah, thank you, Richard H., for that comment. And this one here I feel I have to address as well. Monty Doran. 50th anniversary Star Trek movies, new television series, new uniforms, cosplays, merchandise, etc. Is it just me in the town where I live in? In every local retail store, I see they have a shit boatload ton of Star Wars toys and merchandise everywhere, but very little, correction, to barely no Star Trek model ships, Funko Pops anywhere. The only place to find was Target. I don't shop there as much, but the only Star Trek toys I've seen were Funko Pop Deanna Troi, Star Trek TNG, and Borg. No ships, no posters, just a handful of items compared to the other sci-fi opposite franchise. What makes it so bad, Captain Foley, is Toys R Us didn't have any Star Trek, and I literally shake my head like it doesn't exist. Are you serious right now? At first, to my judgment, I thought they were sold out, and Toys R Us sales associate told me that they do not have a lot of Star Trek merchandise. So my question, where do you find or have cool Star Trek ships, or what do you recommend, and what's your take on this? Because this definitely doesn't make sense to me, Captain. Thanks for your time and your feedback. Keep up the awesome work, sir. I agree. I've seen Toys R Us advertise Star Trek merchandise, but I think that's just for Toys R Us in the States, because Toys R Us in Canada has zip, zilch, zero, nothing of it. So that's a real bummer as far as that goes. And I agree with the 50th. There should be more stuff available. I think the reason Star Wars is so prevalent is because it's more of a, I don't want to say lowbrow viewer. That's not necessarily the case. It's more aimed towards kids. It's more action oriented. It's not as cerebral or as accessible perhaps as Star Trek. Or it's more accessible than Star Trek, I mean. Star Trek is very, like I said, cerebral, political, a lot of underlying themes. I think it's much more adult, which brings me to, where can you find these collectibles that are aimed at adults that like us, that have money, that we grew up as kids wanting this Star Trek merchandise, couldn't find it. Now we have the money to afford it. Where do we find that stuff? Comic shops, Think Geek, StarTrek.com, all these kinds of places. A lot of it you're going to have to find online and have shipped to you. Amazon as well. But yeah, the specialty stores, the collectible stores, the comic book stores, that's where you're going to find this stuff. But I think that's the whole reason behind not having a lot of merchandise out there. And that kind of, it's sad. I would, every time I go to Toys R Us, I'm hoping I'll see something. I never see anything Star Trek at my Toys R Us. So it's a real shame, but that's just the way it is. And I think we have to deal with that right now. But yeah, for the 50th, I think they should have had more stuff and be more accessible. And I agree with you. The next is from Wild Helian 1. Captain, thank you for answering my previous question. I have another one for you. This one is that I heard that you may be designing the USS Foley or Foley class starship. Is there any truth to that? If so, I think it would be cool. I am like you on Enterprise and Discovery. I initially hated them, but they have grown on me, and I like the Discovery ship, as it is unique to say the least. Well, as for the Foley class design, it's already been designed. Both me and Cal Schnatz Jr. designed it, created it. We've got a whole development backstory for it. We have a 3D model for it, Samuel and myself. There's actually a few different variations of the ship. And we will be doing an episode on it at some point. A lot of people have already seen it. It's if you were at Denver Comic Con, you could have seen there was a designer sheet with all the designers like Rick and John Eves, or Rick Sternbach, John Eves, Doug Drexler, all had signed stuff. And even one print there of the Foley class with my picture on it, and I signed it for a few people. So yes, the Foley class is a thing. And yeah. And the Discovery design is unique, and I think it's unique for a reason. I think it's a specifically purpose-built ship, so we're going to have to wait and see, unfortunately. Next is from the Sam's channel. Where can we see the massaged Discovery I keep hearing Captain Foley talk about? Nowhere. On the designer's computer, and he is in contact with us as we know him, and he shares updates and changes with us, Samuel and myself. So you can't see it anywhere because it hasn't been released yet. Yeah, no other official images have been released. It's still a work in progress, so you're gonna have to stay tuned. I don't know when they feel like they want to release that. I haven't heard yet when that will be, so I can't answer that. But yeah, it's available nowhere. I have some on my phone, but I can't share them with anybody or show anybody. Sam and myself have discussed it, talked about it, talked to the designer, and offered our suggestions and stuff we'd like to see on it, and as well to kind of help. So, yeah, sorry that I don't have any better news for you. So Shermanator 1989 says, I'm going to give the show a chance, but given recent history, I'm keeping my expectations very low. I've loved Star Trek since I was a little boy, but so far as I can see, the franchise is on its deathbed, and what's left is commercialized crap trying to milk what little life is left. Fair enough. The only way Trek has a chance to be saved is for the copyright to go to public domain. The studios have shown utter contempt for the franchise and its fans. Fans, on the other hand, will make you write the Trek they want, and people will be free to make their own canon. And then it would just be a free-for-all, and there'd be no solidarity, no comprehensive established canon, and it would just be out of control, insane. So I don't think that's the way to go, but I appreciate your input in the comment. Thank you very much. Hightower85 says, dude, I love the fact that you're brutefully honest and don't sugarcoat anything. I have always liked the fact that you hate JJ's Enterprise, but at the same time, you like some aspects of it. I, for one, adore it and the new Enterprise A, but also respecting the people that don't. They and yourself and I have opinions, and we are all entitled to them. People are so quick to jump on something they don't like, and they don't... People are so quick to jump on someone that likes something that they don't, though we all love Trek, right? I hate the fact that people are hating on Star Trek Discovery, though we haven't seen a damn thing from the show except the 5-day made animation. Give the bloody show a chance first before hating. You never know, it could be on par with TOS in terms of popularity. Anyways, keep up the amazing work. I've always watched here from England for a long time, and you guys are the highlight of my week. That's awesome to hear. Thank you. And yeah, I agree with everything you said. We all love Trek, so let's just have meaningful discussions about it. I don't know. It's the hate that bothers me. Dislike is okay. Dislike with an opinion or offering a solution to the problem. But just to hate something for the sake of hating it and not having a solution to the problem is going to get you nowhere. Garage Guy 879 says, isn't this new show supposed to have a different story arc and crew every season? Not 100% sure, but that's the main gist of what I've kind of got out of it. Since people have first saw the USS Discovery, they started hating it. It seems that people have forgotten that different story arcs for different seasons. And has anyone thought that maybe the Discovery may look and be designed that way for a specific reason? Maybe it's different for a reason. And as far as CBS All Access goes, and no one paying to watch it, remember, there are always things called DVDs, and I bet they will sell very well. I totally agree with that. Everything you said there. Yeah, it could be designed that way for a specific reason, and we could see different stuff in each season. So yes, we can't just judge right away. I think we need to wait and see what goes on with it. And yes, the DVD sales, I'll definitely be buying it on DVD when it comes out, even if it's crap, because it's Star Trek. I've got all Star Trek. I own everything pretty much. So yeah, I agree. Mayak Bozart. Regarding the criticism on the Discovery, I wouldn't say that I particularly like the look of the ships, but I don't particularly dislike it either. I didn't like the Voyager at first, and there are a few starship classes inside and outside of core canon, the Daedalus class for example, that make my eyes bleed. But I don't think that there will ever be a time when I wouldn't watch a Trek series just because I wouldn't want a model of the hero ship hanging from my ceiling. It's a new old design, and for an old time, and I think it will fit in nicely. Regarding your Camaro, so you will walk up to the mechanic and tell them, "You make it go fast." That's so Pakled. Indeed it is. You are smart. You will make us go fast. And then right under it, WM Pratt 2010 says, "Here's money. Make it go fast." Quote of the day. Hashtag. Initially I wasn't going to read this one, but I'm going to, and I want to address a few things in it. So, Empyrean Frost says, people need to stop acting like spoiled, entitled brats over Star Trek. And anybody that acts like that openly while knowing the rules of Trekyards should be shown the airlock, and usually is shown it. The new design and McQuarrie designs are awesome, so are the JJ designs. Infinite diversity and infinite combinations. Get over it. True Trek fans do not act like spoiled brats over the trivial stuff. They accept the love of Trek in all its forms and make normal, constructive arguments for things they disagree about. Sorry for the rant, sir. Captain Mira, USS Renaissance, NCC 85632. Atheism Ape commented on it and said, Foley has been outspoken in how much he hates the JJ prize. Does that mean he needs to be ejected out of an airlock too? I would say no, because I also say that I love certain aspects about it as well, and I do own the JJ movies despite not really liking them 100%. Like I've said before this whole time, it's all Star Trek, it's all love, and the JJ prize has kind of grown on me a little bit. I've mentioned that in the past little while, now that I've held my nephew's little toy of it, and taking a look at it from different angles. It's not as bad as I first initially thought. I still don't like it, but I've always said from the beginning, it looks great from the side, it's got some great aspects to it, I just don't like the design. It's not that I hate it, but I control the airlock, so I'm not going to be kicking myself out of the airlock anytime soon. So, and he says, I totally disagree that true Trek fans never complain. It would worry me if no one complained. The constant bitching is how you know that they care. Of course, they go way overboard sometimes, but that's fandom for you. And then Empyrean Frost says, very true. It is getting to the point where you can go onto the Trekyards page. You can't go onto the Trekyards page because of the comments and posts. And no, it's his ship. It's not him that is complaining about it. It's not him that I'm complaining about. It's the people that comment on the page. Live long and prosper. So there you go. This next comment just exemplifies what I've been saying all along. John Grubb says, I do not like the ship so far, but I will still watch the show. Hey, it's Star Trek. That's what it boils down to, guys. Love for something that we all respect and admire. Mark Field says, do you ever plan on doing mission briefings on any of the ships from the Star Trek Starflight chronology? I have the book and I've always found it fascinating. Yes, indeed we do. We mentioned the Bonaventure, that's in that quite a few times in certain episodes. I have the book signed by Rick Sternbach. So yeah, I would love to do some of the ship designs in there. We do plan on doing stuff like that down the road, absolutely. So stay tuned for that kind of stuff. Joseph Bryant says, I liked the design of Discovery as soon as I saw it, as did I. And I understand that there are some people who don't like it, but I don't like or understand all the hate that's going around on the internet. Throughout movie history, people have used rejected designs. BB-8 was a rejected R2-D2 design. And from what I've heard, people love BB-8. Initially when I saw BB-8, I was like, oh, I don't like him. I don't want BB-8 to replace R2-D2, but I've grown to love BB-8, okay? It's just the way it is. I'm a huge R2-D2 fan. I now love BB-8 as well. He's not replacing R2-D2 in any way. He's just a supplement. I didn't like him at first. Grew on me. And yes, BB-8's design was 100% a rejected R2-D2 design. So you're saying that you're disrespecting the creator by using BB-8? That J.J. Abrams is disrespecting George Lucas because he used the rejected R2-D2 design? No. It's paying homage to what has come before. And seeing those conceptual things on screen, I think, is a real nod to the designers and developers that have been inspired and loved Star Trek over the years. So he goes on to say here, fans wanted a Star Trek that took place in the Prime Universe again, and they got it. It should be enjoyed for that, even if the series sucks. He goes on to say, I disagree with Sackquist. I don't think Star Trek Discovery has been delayed because they are in trouble. My impression is that CBS is gauging the reaction of the fans to see what they want. They could have waited until a month ago to announce that they were working on a new series and called it a series called Discovery, but they didn't. Instead, they have chosen to tell the fans all about it late last year, and then the show an original concept art for the ship, something none of the previous series have done. Perhaps why we haven't heard anything about season 2 of Discovery is because CBS is putting it off until they see the reaction to season 1. A strategy used by many TV series, including The Next Generation. Irish Trekkie said that he would take the postponement of the first series as good news, that they're working to make the series so much better, and not saying this is going to happen by January no matter what. It's the same with even Stranger Things. I mean, season 1 was released. There was no plans for season 2. It was such a positive reaction that they went ahead with a season 2. And now season 2 is going to be coming to Stranger Things. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. Stranger Things on Netflix. It's awesome. Il Al Scratch says, does anybody else but me recognize the ugly-ass ship design as a rejected Ralph McQuarrie submission? Pre-production proposed design for what would eventually be Star Trek the Motion Picture. It was rejected as the Enterprise refit for being too radical a departure from the original Enterprise. Yes, it's not an Enterprise in this. It's just another ship in Starfleet. So it's not a radical departure. That's the reason it wasn't used initially, because it was such a radical departure from the TOS Enterprise, where they decided to do a refit. It looks a lot like it. It's not the Enterprise. It's not a Constitution class. So I got to jump in there and say that. I remember seeing it in the old sci-fi mag called Starlog. They rejected it for being too radical, when in truth they should have done so for it being so damn ugly. Once again, Paramount demonstrates its laziness and lack of both dedication and fan hopes by wasting a prime opportunity to bring us their very best effort, while wasting millions to bring us shit like that Abrams verse crap. Just looked like a recycled ship design. Gives me a bad feeling about what the show has, what is to come. I sure hope I'm wrong. Peace and long life, Mr. Scratch. You just went on to say that the JJ Prize is a rehash of the TOS design. Do you want the Discovery design? And you didn't like it because of that. Just a cheap knockoff. Do you want the Discovery design to be a rehash of what? Voyager? Something like that? Like it would still, no matter what design it would be, there's still going to be people that hate it. So I don't understand quite where you're going with that. It was rejected as an Enterprise, which makes sense. It doesn't look anything like the original Enterprise. But it still fits in the world of Star Trek. It still fits in the Starfleet aesthetic, and I think that's important. Ross Ballmer says, Captain Foley, interesting that your headcanon timeline corresponds with FASA. I was going to ask you about your personal timeline, but then you answered your question later in that question later in the video. I wanted to ask you, are you familiar with Mazo Okazaki's Starfleet Museum website? Yes, I am. I think it's particularly awesome, and it shows a nice steady progression of technology through time, unlike Enterprise, where the technology is like a cutback version of everything that they had on TNG. I still like Enterprise too, but I was disappointed that it contradicts this version of early Trek history, as I like it so much. I agree with you. I think the Starfleet Museum website's fantastic, and that's kind of my headcanon as well. Even the last podcast Samuel and myself did, talking about the Romulan, or the Balance of Terror touchstone that Brian Fuller talked about in regards to Discovery. I talked about the older Romulan ships from the Romulan War, and those are in the museum as well. So those kind of designs I am totally on board with, and I would have loved to see those on screen, which is what I was kind of disappointed about Enterprise. I understand why they created new stuff and whatnot, but I totally agree with you. The Starfleet Museum is awesome. If you haven't checked it out, it's www.starfleet-museum.org. Please check it out. There's some cool stuff there. Ballroom Scott says, I would like to hear your thoughts on Chaos on the Bridge. I found it to be fairly entertaining, and I think some of the things talked about are relevant to what's going on now. Although I am willing to believe that most of the information in it is true, does feel like an over-dramatization of events and focuses almost exclusively on things that were going poorly. Somebody in my last Captain's Log said that Chaos on the Bridge was on Netflix. It's got to be on American Netflix, because it is not on Canadian Netflix. So I haven't seen it yet. I went to watch it later that night, couldn't find it. I'll need to download it or something, but I haven't had an opportunity to watch it yet. So I will keep that in mind for the future and kind of talk about that after I've taken a look at it. So thank you for suggesting it, whoever did. Canalby says, so after listening to the captain reading out all the negative comments about Discovery halfway through the video, winky face, I want to say something less salty. I'm really happy that they are making new Star Trek. There were some parts of the ship I did not like, but there were some that I really did like. I really hope they change some of the ones I did not like, but hey, let's wait and see. And I think that's a great comment. I thank you very much for that. Something a little less negative is always nice. So yeah, they're making new Star Trek for us, guys. Come on, that's awesome. Steve Schmel says, I hate the Enterprise D Galaxy class. It is an abortion. Not really a huge fan of TNG, but I still watch it and get some enjoyment out of it. So there you have it. Somebody that hates TNG and the Enterprise D, there's still the good episodes, there's still good storylines, there's still good character development, there's still other ships that you see, so there's always positive stuff to be had in new Star Trek. Patrick O'Connell says, Captain Foley, as a fairly recent fan, I wanted to first say thank you to both you and the Commander for your contributions to the Star Trek community. It is a pleasure to have an actual intellectual insight into something like Star Trek. Every time I wanted to talk about it, even in the slightest, my friends and my roommates would look at me like I'm crazy. I mean, I am, sure, but that's beside the point. I did have a question of a more personal note. How did you find yourself starting a Star Trek-based web series? And more importantly, when you look back at all of the content that you've released on Trekyards, which moments, in your opinion, will always stand out the most? Well, thank you. We started based on our love for Star Trek and ships specifically, both me and Samuel. We just wanted to create a show that we ourselves would watch. There's a whole... If you go back, if you search in YouTube, Trekyards 1 year anniversary, there's a 1 year anniversary podcast where we talk about the origins of the show. Check that out, and you'll be able to hear the story, as it were. And when I look back, which moments, in my opinion, will stand out the most? Anytime we talk to a designer, anytime we get new tidbits of information from the people that design Trek behind the scenes, stuff you don't really hear about too often, people that aren't talked to on a regular basis, that kind of stuff is going to stand out to me. On a personal note, meeting these people, hanging out at their houses, being friends with the designers and the people behind Star Trek is what's personally going to be my favorite thing about this world, this delve into the Star Trek universe that Trekyards has done. So that's it. MM144MM says, I discovered your channel under a month ago. I've mostly enjoyed everything so far. This is the second Captain's Log I've watched, and could I make a suggestion? I don't know how busy you are, and I realize that it takes some time, but I think that when you get a certain amount of comments, would it be better not to read them all, but select a few good ones and tackle the other ones in a more general way? For example, bundling the negative comment. I've done that in this one. I've talked about the negativity at the beginning, and then I've gone through and selectively picked some, so thank you for your suggestion. Now, onto my actual comment. I always felt like I have to defend Enterprise to Star Trek fans. It is perfect. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. I never liked the idea of the Temporal Cold War, but there are a couple of episodes that I would put in my top 20 Star Trek episodes ever. I agree. I felt that the crew felt more human on the show when they haven't adopted an idealistic Federation mentality yet. One of the episodes that has stuck with me as a result of this is Dear Doctor in the first season. I'm particularly interested in Star Trek Discovery. If the writers tackle the gulf between the morality displayed in Enterprise versus what we saw in TNG and beyond, or TOS and beyond, what do you think? Yeah, I think that would be great. You know, I got to go back to the Enterprise thing for a second. I'm rewatching Enterprise, like I said, with my wife, and one of the comments I made is it's like Star Trek 90210. Everybody's so emotional. Archer gets mad so often about this, you know, the Vulcan showed up. Ugh, the bully's here, you know. It's nothing bad against the show. It's just everybody's so emotional. Everybody's whiny and complaining. Yoshi or Hoshi, whatever her name is, she, I don't want to be in space and wah, wah, wah. I don't know. It seems so adolescent, at least the first part of the first season. Then they kind of start to develop that mentality of exploration, and I don't know, it just Star Trek 90210 is my synopsis for Star Trek Enterprise. I know there's some great episodes. In a Mirror Darkly is definitely up there with in my top favorite Star Trek episodes, parts 1 and 2, specifically part 2, things like that. So yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. And the last one is Zoid Industries. I know I'm just increasing the length of the next one, but I gotta know, do you think we'll get more of the Cetacean race in Discovery or ever? Yes, I hope so. I would love to see some more of the Catians. Emrys, the cat people. So there. That's it for this episode of Captain's Log. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm not going to talk about anything personal. The dog's doing fine and everything's cool. Having some issues with the daughter, but that's, you know, you guys don't want to hear about that personal stuff, so I'm not going to get into all that. That can be something I can save for like a Facebook live feed, I guess. Anyway, guys, that's it for Captain Foley for this Captain's Log. Hope you enjoyed it. Looking forward to your comments and questions on this one. And yeah, just keep in mind, the theme of this episode was, it could have been worse. We could have had a Star Destroyer as the new ship. Anyway, guys, this is Captain Foley signing off. I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.